Hello, my name is Jim Flovin, and I am here to introduce you to a rather ordinary group of people who have had some rather extraordinary experiences in their lives. The people who you are going to meet and who will tell their story are a group of people who have encountered various medical, physical, and spiritual problems in their lives. Normally, when someone experiences the type of problems these people have had, you think of them seeking professional help of a more common nature. A medical doctor, a dentist, a psychiatrist, a chiropractor, and many other practitioners of the arts. However, these people have chosen a different path. By utilizing their own God energy, they have tried to heal themselves. Some of them have sought the help of other people. Eventually, all of this group has come to a spiritual healer, Barbara Walter. This lady has the extraordinary talent of being able to channel the cosmic forces and the God energy from the other side. She can focus this energy on the body of a person who needs physical or spiritual healing. This is done by entering a trance state and letting her body and her mind act as a channel for the cosmic energy from the other side. These people will tell their stories in their own words, and I think you'll be somewhat amazed at the results that have come about. It is understandable that this is not for everyone, but I think that anyone who listens to these stories and has ever thought that there is another way to affect a more calm feeling in your lives, a more relaxed feeling physically and mentally better, I think you will find their stories to be most interesting.
Barbara, through Suzanne. I was in the hospital. It was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, and it was quite scary. My beliefs is an Amish background, so I knew the process of healing, but to actually have somebody here to help me was kind of unusual, because in my community it was not allowed. At that time, they were telling me I had to have both my kidneys removed and put on dialysis and wait for a transplant to happen. In my mind, I was saying, I came on this earth with them, and I'm going to leave with them. So I didn't want to give them up that easily. And Barbara called me on the telephone, and she told me she could help me over the phone. And I'm like, phone? And so when I was in the hospital, I told the nurses not to disturb me for an hour every day, and she helped me over through the phone. And the next day, I lost 30 pounds of fluid. My kidney functions started back up, and they canceled the surgery, and I'm here. I see Barbara twice a week on a personal level, still trying to cleanse out and keep the function going. I can go to the bathroom by myself now, which is quite unusual.
Dr. Sandra Adams. I'm a PhD in developmental pediatrics, and I let you know that kind of a background so that I can tell you quite honestly that I am probably one of the bigger skeptics that ever Barbara ran across. She came to me while I was in the hospital. I had spinal meningitis and encephalitis, both of which are very life-threatening, and I was very, very ill on IVs and other kinds of life support kinds of systems. But my good friend Suzanne sent Barbara to me, and as sick as I was lying there, I really couldn't put up much of a fight. So when Barbara came in, I just sort of would lie there and listen to her. And she came to me and approached everything with such a logical way of explaining energy fields and the process of being open to another level of consciousness that could possibly help me heal. And the more we talked, the more sense it made. And so she came to me several times in the hospital and would work with me there. And then at one point I decided that I was getting better with Barbara than I was with any medical treatment. And so I left the hospital against my doctor's wishes, several doctors' wishes as a matter of fact, and went home, and Barbara would come to me at my house as well. And within, I'd say 5-6 days, I was well, and I knew that I was well. And I stopped taking all medication, and I think it was that weekend that I came to church and made this very same testimony. So as skeptical as I was because of my science and medical background, I am now a believer that I am responsible for whatever level of illness or wellness I have, and that I will continue working with Barbara to increase my spiritual growth so that I can achieve that level. So thanks, Barbara. Hang in there with me.
When Matthew was 5.5 months old, he had encephalitis, which is an infection in the brain. At that point in time, doctors didn't even think he would live, and they gave us no hope at all for his life. After he did survive the encephalitis, they told us that he had suffered severe brain damage and that he would never be able to hear or see or walk or talk or function as a normal little child, and that we should just take him home and care for him and not worry about his future. Since that time, we've taken him home and we've cared for him, and we've continued to work and have a positive attitude that we could help him and that he would someday overcome this and become whole again. We've tried many different therapy approaches. We've used conventional therapy such as occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. We've used a lot of unconventional therapy approaches such as patterning through Glenn Doman and Philadelphia's program. We've been to the Option Institute in Massachusetts where we tried their unconditional loving attitude approach to therapy. We've been down to the Keys for dolphin therapy where Matthew swam with the dolphins. We've tried many different approaches. About 1.5 years ago, I heard about Barbara Walters through a friend of ours who comes and volunteers and helps us with Matthew. She brought us a little brochure about Barbara and the Healing Center here in Largo. At that time, I wanted to get Matthew up here, but we were skeptical at the same time. So as days went by, I felt more and more led to bring Matthew to Barbara. So it was 1 year ago on Mother's Day in May was the first visit Matthew made to the Spiritual Center here in Largo. At that time, as Barbara was meditating and working with Matthew and sending energies out to him, she had told us that Matthew would be healed totally. However, it would be very slow and progressive, and that it wasn't going to happen suddenly. She said changes would happen so slowly that we wouldn't know anything was happening, but eventually he would be able to hold up his head, and then physical strength would come next. And after all the physical healing was done, the mental healing would come very rapidly. That was last May 1992. From that time, Matthew was very slow in progressing. We weren't seeing any changes happening. However, about 5 months ago, changes started happening, and the first thing that happened was Matthew began to hold his head up. He gained head control. You can see Matthew now, he's holding his head up fine. A year ago on Mother's Day, he could not. His head would have just flopped over to his knees or flipped over backwards. And then after he began to hold his head up, he began holding up his upper body, and with assistance, we can even help him to sit. Back in February of 1993, I started feeling led really strongly to bring him back to Barbara. I couldn't get Barbara out of my mind. I couldn't get the thought out that she said he would gain head control first and then physical strength, and that's exactly what was happening. So March 7th, I believe it was, a Sunday, I brought Matthew back up to Barbara, and from that point on, she's been working with him regularly. Every Sunday, for the last 3 Sundays, she's worked with him, And then this week we've been up here in Largo on vacation, so she's seen him every day and sometimes twice a day. As I'm in the healing sessions with Barbara, I can feel heat coming off Matthew's body. I had my hand on his lower spine at one time, and that's where she said she was working and asked me if I felt heat. I not only felt heat, but I felt a very strong tingling sensation that I was wondering if my hand was falling asleep or something right prior to her asking me if I felt heat. Yesterday when I was in with Matthew, my whole body felt like an energy field. I even felt some like jolts of electricity going up into my own head as she was working with Matthew. Matthew's changes, other than the physical strength, such as head control and upper body, have been very subtle, but there have been changes in the past 3 to 4 weeks. He reached out and held for his bottle one day. He also reached out and held my arm, which is something he hasn't done in the past. And he's pushing up and standing on his feet much better than he did even a month ago.